Cool. I guess I'm kicking off the digital discovery track. So we're going to talk about influencer marketing in 2019, talk a little about what's changed and what's going on. So who am I? I'm Adam Lieb. I'm the founder and CEO of Gamesight. At Gamesight, we build a marketing platform for PC and console games where we help them build community, engage with influencers, and measure performance. And we're talking about influencers today, and I think I have a pretty unique insight. Obviously, part of our platform focuses heavily on influencers, but we also have a measurement part of our platform that tracks marketing across every type of campaign run for PC console games. So we really see kind of what works and where dollars are going, and influencers is a huge part of that, which I'll talk a little bit more about. I've also been doing influencer marketing for a long time, at least in this ecosystem. I actually ran my first influencer marketing campaign in 2012, which now feels like a lifetime ago. We worked with a little YouTuber who had about 5,000 subscribers called Chief Pat. He's now one of the top 100 YouTube content creators. Clash of Clans, Clash type videos. He makes about $50,000 to $100,000 a video now. Back then, I think we paid him $500 for the videos he did with us. So it sort of shows a little bit where this industry has gone. I've worked a couple hundred campaigns, millions and millions of dollars, mobile, PC, console, non-gaming brands. So I've sort of done a lot of influencer marketing. So this sort of, I like to do this whenever I give a talk, which is my pitch to you, why you should pay attention for the next 15 minutes, which is why are influencers so important? Why does this talk exist? Why are we learning about it? So from our data, we've seen that influencers are the #1 ways gamers discover games in 2019. They've passed everything else by a wide margin. We now see half or more consistently of new users to a game that are directly attributed to influencer marketing campaigns. So it's now how gamers figure out what they're going to play next. On top of that, I think there are kind of two key insights there, which are gamers that discover games through influencers. They play more and they pay more. So they're better retention, better monetization. Ultimately, they are higher value members of your community than someone who discovered your game through a Facebook ad. Makes sense. There's a sort of like social element of watching someone play a game or watching YouTube content, whatever it is. So that's really the reason I think influencers are such an important part of our current games marketing ecosystem and why we all should sort of care about it, learn about it, and have a strategy around it. So what type of influencers are we talking about? Well, they're really, we look at live streaming and YouTube content are the primary sources that we're talking about. So these numbers I have here are stats that we pulled from April. So in April, there were 3.3 million live streamers on Twitch and just under 1 million YouTubers creating gaming-related content on YouTube. Obviously, they're not all influencers. You can really chop off about half of those as people who have 0 viewers, 1 viewer, sort of not really in the sort of true content creation space, but are maybe just messing around. Beyond that, it's still a ton of people, still a couple million people. And so the way we kind of break it down is we have 3 sort of tranches. One, which I would say people typically will call tier 1. I don't like that term, try not to use it, but we really say like top 100. And for us, top 100 are top 100 channels on something like YouTube and Twitch. I think the number 100 channel on Twitch has just over 10,000, maybe 11,000 concurrent viewers when they stream. So everyone in the top 100 on Twitch has at least 10,000 people that watch them whenever they go live, at least on average. These channels are these channels are predominantly businesses, they're professionals. On YouTube, often they're like actual companies with multiple people that create this content. On Twitch, they're typically individuals, but this is their full-time job. They make a living, they make respectable wages up to, of course, making millions and millions of dollars. So that's kind of the top group. They represent the vast majority of dollars that flow into the sort of influencer marketing ecosystem. And they're also sort of the tastemakers of the games industry to a great extent. Next group of folks that we talk about that we care a lot about we just sort of look at the heart of influencers, which are basically everyone from hundreds to thousands of concurrent viewers on Twitch to tens to hundreds of thousands of views on an individual YouTube video. There are tens of thousands of these people. If you were to take all of, let's say, the viewer hours spent on Twitch for the top 100 players and compare it to that next tranche, the next group has almost twice as many. So while the top the Ninjas of the world are super important. They have a ton of eyeballs. They are smaller in aggregate than kind of the next group down. That next group down will have anywhere from actually being a professional, this is their full-time job, to sort of a side hustle, an aspiring career, folks that are making money. We'll see a huge spectrum of sort of sophisticated, used to working with businesses, and someone who does this for fun, who's now finding that they have 500 people watching them, and they're trying to figure out how to monetize it. Last group, which we still call influencers, a lot of people don't, or they'll call them micro, nano influencers, talking about people on Twitch maybe with 100 concurrent viewers or less. On YouTube, probably less than 10,000 video views. We still think they're super important and a super important part of the ecosystem. I think to give sort of an interesting example, we had a campaign maybe a year ago, and one of the partners we worked with, a Twitch streamer, had about 50 concurrent viewers every time they streamed. At the end of the campaign, we looked at the data, and that person had 47 downloads attributed directly to them. So 47 of the 50 people watching them streaming actually bought I think it was a $20 or $30 premium PC SKU. Of course, if you could replicate that times 1,000 people, you'd be in business. But it sort of shows you the impact of these smaller streamers and how tight-knit their communities are and what that can actually mean for your game. So we don't just ignore them and say, oh, they have only 50 people watching them, why should we care about them? They can be massively important. So this is a slide I always like to do. Obviously, this is a room full of predominantly developers, publishers, people on a certain side of the table, but I like to give sort of the influencer perspective, which is what are influencers looking for? Why would an influencer want to work with you in your game? I think the first thing that we always think about is great content. That is their business, livelihood, hobby, whatever you want to call it, that they care about is how can I produce really good content that people want to watch. So whenever you're talking with an influencer and you're basically trying to get them to play your game or pay them to play your game, I think framing it as how can this be really compelling content for them is super important. There are a bunch of ways to do that, whether that's actually stuff in the game and whether that's stuff outside of the game like tournaments. Anything you can do to make the event of streaming your game or making YouTube content around your game sort of unique, memorable, exciting, or just great content, I think is extremely important. So I think that's sort of the first place I look to. The next thing is just, content creators want to work with people who care about them. That maybe sounds obvious, but I would say maybe half of the conversations I have with agencies or game publishers is sort of looking at influencers like a media buy like you would for a Google ad placement or an ad on the page takeover on IGN. And while you obviously might want to back all the data out and make them comparable, influencers are people. Like they fundamentally are not just ad placements, and they make decisions about whether they want to work with you and how much they want to charge you based on how you talk to them and how you interact with them. And so I think looking at them as people and not just media is super important. And I think one of the things that we find brands that are surprised is like, hey, we offered to pay this person $10,000 and they told us to go to hell. It's like, well, sure, IGN would never do that. They would put whatever game, as long as you can pay their CPMs, they're going to put your ad on their website. Not to slander IGN, I think that's what they would do. But influencers aren't that way. They make individual sort of gut decisions about what they want to do and how much they might charge or how they would want to work with you. All of these things are just gut decisions. So how you treat them and how you talk to them is massively important. Sending out spam emails that just say, here's a key play our game, unlikely to go super well. So I think putting yourself in their shoes, thinking about them as actual people and why they would want to play your game or engage with you is super important. And then the last point, economic advancement, which was the fanciest way I could figure out how to say they want to get paid. Most of them this is their career or they want it to be their career. And so money, while it might not just be, oh, I need this to pay my rent, it's so much a status symbol, and we hear that a lot, which is sort of like, what is your rate or how much are you charging? That is sort of them leveling up, and they're all gamers and they game just like the rest of us, and to them sort of streaming or YouTubing is a game, and how do I level up and go from someone who has 100 viewers to 1,000 viewers? And so the economic advancement model is a huge part of that. How can you contribute to their growth and them leveling up is wildly important. So those are the three things that I think influencers are looking for, and if you're trying to work with them, I would have those in the back of my mind before anything else. So that was sort of my preamble. This is, I guess, the meat of the talk, which is what's new in 2019, what has changed, and where are we now? These are the 5 points, but I'll click through them individually and talk about them. So first big trend that I think really hit in 2019, it's been growing for a while, is entire marketing budgets dedicated to influencers. So this graph up here is what happened when Apex Legends launched, what happened to Fortnite. So Fortnite has basically been the top game on Twitch for over a year, and no one has ever been able to knock them off. Apex did for even a short period of time. And the way they did that was they spent 100% of their marketing budget on influencers at launch. I think they are the first game that everyone knows about who did that. There's been a bunch of games we've worked with and we've seen that happen at the indie level and even sort of mid-sized publisher level, but certainly for a AAA studio to do this was kind of like, oh my gosh. I've certainly heard that on a lot of phone calls recently, which is, oh my gosh, what did Apex do? How could we do the same thing? And the answer is they went all in on influencers. That was their strategy, and it worked. I think EA's stock bumped $9.5 billion within a week of launch, and really there was no sales data. There was all of that was on Twitch streaming data and saying this was the #1 game on Twitch. Everyone then wrote articles that said this game knocked Fortnite off, and so obviously all the sort of Wall Street folks said, oh, well, if they do that, what does that mean for revenue? I think some of that has proven not to be true, and that sort of the game's performance in the months since launch might have changed that. But from a getting your game on the map, their focus purely on influencers was a huge success. And so this is something that we're going to see a lot more of this year, and I think in the years to come, which is focusing your entire game launch around the idea of how do I get influencers to embrace my game. Looks like my slides got the format got a little wonky. So my number 2 point is the growth of influencer managers, influencer organizations, and sort of the professionality of people who work with influencers at companies. So this was like a LinkedIn search I did for job postings with the word influencer marketing in them. Had I done this 5 years ago, there would have been virtually none. 5 years ago, most people who worked with influencers at game companies were community managers, maybe marketing person, maybe PR, and dealing with influencers was just kind of like a thing that got thrown on their plate. Now we are seeing companies dedicating entire organizations with multiple influencer managers and people that manage the influencer managers. The relationship your company has with influencers is so important that brands are starting to invest in it. So I think this is something that we'll continue to see, sort of the professionalization of influencer managers in the same way that sort of happened with community managers maybe a decade or so ago, where there used to be a few companies that cared about community, and now name a company that doesn't have a bunch of community managers. So this is something that we've certainly seen happen in 2019. It will continue to grow. Yeah, this formatting is rough. Influencer programs, my number 3 thing, which is brands, games, publishers, studios, platforms, sort of everyone in this ecosystem is trying to figure out how to build a sustainable way to work with influencers long term. I think this is, within influence marketing, is really a change from even what I said about Apex, which is, hey, let's focus everything on launch. This big launch moment happens. Of course, we need influencers to care about it then. But now what? And so, Epic Supported Creator Program is a good example of a platform, obviously both a publisher and a platform, who is trying to figure out a way to keep influencers engaged all year long, not just at launch moments, not just at sort of key marketing beats, but every day. If I'm an influencer, what's in it for me to be a part of this Epic ecosystem or the Fortnite ecosystem or whatever it may be? So I think we're seeing a lot more models for how to do that. I think the Epic affiliate program is a model. There's a bunch of other ones. And this is certainly important for service-based games, free play, anything that cares about their game long term. How do you keep influencers engaged? A lot of it is through, this is an affiliate program that they pay people through, but we're seeing a ton of non-paid programs, which are, how do we flying top influencers to headquarters, keeping them updated with early builds, getting their input on game development and sort of the game dev pipeline. That is something we're seeing more and more of. How do we bring influencers in, because they matter so much? So this is a thing that we're just seeing more sort of outward investment in these types of programs really across the ecosystem. Data-driven decision making. This is something that's been, I'd say, growing slowly for a while. And this is the first year where I'm starting to hear more conversations about math than ever before. Previously, and still for a lot of the industry, influencers kind of fit in this brand marketing spend, and it's like, we're going to put 100K here, and the result is like views and brand sentiment and things like that. That's starting to shift to how much am I spending on influencers and what is my ROI. That has been a slow trend, but this year I definitely think that's changed. I think pricing is another great example. Traditionally, pricing has been completely opaque. I want to work with Ninja. How much does that cost? Well, there's no market rate. I call Ninja's agent, and he quotes me some insane number, and I either pay it or I don't. That has started to change. I think things like the Twitch bounty boards, while maybe not a massively successful program yet, at the very least is sort of establishing kind of a market rate of this is what a eyeball on Twitch is worth. Something close to a CPM that you can kind of take and apply to the rest of your programs. That really trend has kind of finally hit. I still think we're probably a year or two away from this being the predominant way that dollars are spent, but it's at least happening to some extent this year. Last thing, one of my favorite things is I say disclosures help, don't hurt. So disclosures, I'm talking FTC disclosures, I'm talking hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored, things you'll see on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, where influencers are basically disclosing that they're getting paid. So these FTC disclosures are required by law. If you're giving someone money or anything that is worth money to promote a product, that person has to disclose it to their audience. It's a FTC fair disclosure policy. Sort of a key point is a game key. If I've got a $20 premium game and I want to send that out to 100 influencers to play my game, you just paid them $20. The key's worth something, so they need to disclose in their video, hey, this was sponsored by this great publisher. So my key thing in 2019 that we've now seen in the data is that those disclosures actually help, don't hurt. I think there's been this kind of, if we do this, people will think we're a sellout and we'll get less views and people won't care as much. I actually found the exact opposite, which is influencers that are really transparent and upfront about their disclosures have better viewership, have better engagement, and ultimately the things they're promoting convert better, and people like those things better. So if you're engaged in influencer marketing, I would be really stringent about making sure folks are doing these disclosures. They're massively important, and they actually help, don't hurt. So this is my last slide, and then I'll take questions, which is I'd call these pro tips really like what makes a great campaign, whether that's sort of no matter what you're doing. I think these are sort of generally applicable. Organic plus paid. So I think the number one thing that we see help paid campaigns is also running an organic campaign at the same time. Looking at Apex, so they paid a bunch of top streamers to play their game, absolutely. At the same time, they also worked with a massive amount of streamers in a non-paid way, in an organic way, helping them, sort of early access to the game. Things like streamer events, like you might have seen in Borderlands 3, those types of programs will help boost anything you're doing on the paid UA side massively. So I think those two have to work together, and when they do, it really is a beautiful thing. The next thing, great communication. I think that maybe is obvious, but the number one way I see programs and campaigns fail is poor communication. The sort of publisher, the agency thinks that the influencer might understand or intuit things. They treat them like a journalist or someone who maybe is used to getting pieces of information. We find clear, concise explanations. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're hoping to get out of it. I think that maybe comes from sort of the PR background where people don't do that, and they sort of say like, hopefully this goes well. When we say, hey, this is what we're hoping we're going to get out of this campaign, what we find a lot is when things go sideways and things don't go well, the influencer is able to just communicate back and say, hey, yeah, so I did my stream and I got half as many viewers as I'm expecting. I'm so sorry. I know this is what you're really looking for. Let me make it up to you. When that communication's not there, they get half the viewers, the publisher's pissed, they don't want to work with that person ever again, and then the influencer's on the other side thinking like, oh shit, what did I do wrong? So great communication, I think, is absolutely key. And the last point, measure everything. I think one of the things that is most important right now is influencer marketing is not for everyone, and I don't think that while it's important, it doesn't work for every game. In order to know whether it works, you need to measure it. You need to find out, is this a thing that's going to be a core part of our business, or is this a thing that we do one time? That's it. I've got a very little bit of time for questions, if anyone has one.
Yeah, we can probably take one or two questions. Is there anything that anyone would like to ask? We'll run here in the row.
I think you're talking about basically a trend of influencer marketing being a really big part of game launches. I mean, anecdotally, as a gamer, if I'm interested in purchasing a game and no streamer's playing it and it's not in top 20 in Twitch, I'm going to stay away from it. But at the same time, I can think of some excellent games that are god-awful to watch on stream. Like an example being an ARPG like Diablo or Path of Exile. Having played, it's fun to watch, but if you haven't played them, the content's really dry and repetitive, and it's not a good stream game. As influencer marketing becomes like an expectation culturally for gamers as they consume, what do you suggest somebody does if they have a great game that's just not designed to be a spectator game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is there's an ARPG off the top of my head in development that I know is actively working on how to include the audience in sort of like the loot system, so that there is an incentive to watch someone play something that maybe is dry and repetitive because maybe you have the chance of the legendary item dropping for you. That is a game design decision that is directly built to fix the problem you're talking about. And I think you're right. There are games. I think Diablo 3 would have. I love that game, and I played it a lot. It's not fun to watch. Totally agree. I'd rather play it myself. I think the game would have and still could be more successful if they found a way to sort of make that experience better. I don't know what it is. I'm not that creative, but I know that there are developers that are that creative that are actively looking for ways to make games that are maybe traditionally not perfectly streamable more streamable.